Good evening. It is Wednesday, and I apologize that we're on a Wednesday, not a Thursday. I'll tell you why in a minute. And we will be discussing The Golem of Brooklyn by Adam Mansbach. Full transparency, I enjoyed it. When I interviewed him in the fall, I enjoyed that as well. I told my husband, I said, you should read this, I'm done using it now because
Mhm.
I just think it's a very niche type of
Mhm.
humor and that type of thing. And we'll talk about that in 1 minute. But wait a minute. Here we go. This is what he looks like. He's a young guy. The other thing which I found out after I signed him up to speak for us, he also wrote the children's, well, it's not a children's book, Go the Fuck to Sleep. And it's a
Mhm.
very popular book. And he wrote Seriously, You Have to Eat. Obviously, he has toddlers, and that must be him. And I just think he has a very oddball sense of humor that's it just tickles me. So, and I asked him in the interview, and I can bring up the link if you want to go back if you haven't seen the interview when he was here on a Sunday. Samuel L. Jackson narrated it. And so, I was like, was he nice? Was he this? And he's like, yes, he was very nice. And he does a lot of interesting TV work, scripts. When he met with us, it was before the writer's strike had settled, so he couldn't tell us what he's doing. So I'm going to have to Google him and see what projects he's working on. And because he's just, I think he has his fingers in a lot of pies. So now I'll tell you a little bit about him as soon as I find out where I put that. I put up a lot. Did any, well, I don't know. Oh, here, that's what's it. Here we go. He is an American author. He has previously been a visiting professor of literature at Rutgers University, Camden, and he graduated from Columbia College in '98 and received an MFA from Columbia University in 2000. He wrote the children's book for adults, Go the Fuck to Sleep, parodying bedtime stories. Other books Mansbach has written include Angry Black White Boy, The End of the Jews, and he was the founding editor of the 1990s hip hop journal Elementary. And he lives in Berkeley and co-hosts a radio show, Father Figure. I have found, because I Google a lot of people because um I Google people because I'm interviewing them or whatever. They've taken out like the personal life. But he's married, he has 2 kids, and Wikipedia, you can edit yourself. So, people could put that in and he could take it out. So before we get into any discussion, tell me, what you thought of the title of the book, what you thought of the book, his humor. Go ahead. Don't hold back.
Loved the humor.
Well,
Yeah.
I love the humor. I did too. I did too.
I know. I
Where-
thought of it,
English
I
from
thought
Larry David. I mean, oh my God.
yes.
Oh, the
When I
Larry
first heard-
David thing is pee your
Yeah,
pants
that's
funny.
hysterical. Yeah. When I first saw it, I was like, I was thinking of the Golem and the Genie, and it was so totally not like that book at
Yeah.
all.
I told Sandy that. She goes, I said, this is nothing like the Golem and the Ginny. And in fact, the Golem and the Ginny has a sequel. We read the
Yeah.
Golem and the Ginny in book club years and years and years ago, but I don't feel that I can assign the sequel because it means you have to read the first one, and they're both super, super long. Who else started to talk?
I did.
Marilyn.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm coming in late because I had to completely reconfigure my Zoom.
Oh,
A
well,
whole
that
big thing
happens.
I never saw before. So I'm finally here, everybody, and hello.
You know what? sometimes you have to update. I'm
Oh,
sorry,
adapt
Sandy,
is
what
what
were
is-
you gonna say?
Yeah, it was an update. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
I first started reading it after talking to you, I was excited because I do ceramics and I know what a 25 block of clay. And then I thought, this guy's stoned. I go, this is so different. But there was so much in it that was so unrealistic, like stealing it, unbelievable, because these are
Yeah.
huge. They are
Huge.
lifting a 25 block of clay is, tough.
25 pounds.
So
Yeah.
in the end, this person, the golem made out of clay, I just can't buy into. It's just so out there. And there was
Yeah.
so much that was out there in the book.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
the whole idea of it is so out there. I mean,
Yeah.
that he could actually build something out of clay and that he actually got it to come to life. It's all what they used to call the plausible impossible in cartoons that you hear. So it was more of a cartoon kind of a story.
right. Now, the Golem story is a age-old Jewish story, thousands of years. And there are other Golem stories. Cavalier and Clay has a Golem, the Golem and the Ginny, and even popular TV shows. The X-Files had a whole episode on a Golem, which the minute I saw it, I was like, how can I use that? But that was short-lived. I didn't really know that much about the X-Files. And I think that the history that's interspersed is, just fascinating. He does go off on these tangents and
Yeah.
it does teach us.
Mhm.
Elaine and then Andy.
Do you think that in Tolkien, in the Lord of the Rings, that the reason they named him Gollum was because of the history of golems? I mean, I've heard
Interesting.
that Tolkien was sort of a vitriolic anti-Semite, but
So that's so not in my lane, but it is mentioned in the book when that little girl from Kentucky, and he says, do you know what a golem is? And she goes, I know what a golem is, in the, the
Lord of the Rings.
right, Lord of the Rings. So I don't know if there's any connection. But obviously, it's enough into pop culture that, we can all kind of appreciate. There's a lot of pop culture in this. I mean, the plausible possibilities of, that he would find a queer woman at the bodega who was a Sassov Hasid who spoke Yiddish. That was also,
Out there.
yes, it was all out there, but I still think oh, the other unplausible thing, I just listened to it, and is that they got Larry David in 2 phone calls. Come on,
yeah, yeah.
people.
It's
not
a
gonna
little far-fetched.
Right.
Yeah.
The queer woman at the bodega is more a possibility who spoke Yiddish than getting
Yeah.
Larry David on two rings. I asked Adam, I said, do you know Larry David? And he said, I think he kind of knew him, but they did check it out with him to make sure that he wouldn't
Oh.
be mad or whatever by using his I just think that's the funniest thing, that's how he learned how to speak English. And that I did think it was realistic when he was going to listen to Larry David, and that Larry David said, yeah, kill those Jew haters,
Yeah.
bring their next. I was like, oh no. And did you like the character of Len? The artist,
yeah, I think
I'm sorry, Andy, you were going to go.
It's okay, this kind of ties into what I was going to say. The book was totally, you had to suspend belief, but there was enough realism and true concepts that kind of drew you back to reality, like
Yeah.
at the end when Len decided to destroy the golem.
Yeah.
Rather than have him destroy all the white supremacists,
Yeah.
which, without getting political, it's very similar to many things that are going on in the world.
Here, here. I think that obviously the author, Adam, was very transformed by what happened in Charlottesville. The tiki torches, chanting, we will no, the Jews will not replace us. I mean, it was very, very similar. And thinking about that, and I don't know what to call the former president, who at the time said there are very fine people on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Among other
Who
things.
said that?
Yeah, yeah, it's just, it's like a nightmare, which unfortunately looks like we're seeing that movie again. But I think that and it was interesting that by the way, did you like Len? And then we'll come back to or any to say what about Mary? I thought that Mary's life experiences were realistic for a Sasov chassid. That she'd never seen, she didn't know what to wear, and she didn't know TV, didn't know pop culture, she didn't know any of that. And if you read any of those memoirs, and I've read a couple of them, it's that's their, they're brought up in this closed closed society. What other characters did you empathize with?
Well, I think I liked her more than I liked him because she was
Oh, you
seemed
didn't
to
like
be,
Len?
I mean, I did, but I think that she was more of a driving force of the logic in as much as it could be logical in the book, as far as that's concerned, that she was the more dynamic character.
Yeah.
And if she weren't there, I don't know what would have been with this book.
Okay, but what about at the end when she wanted him to go kill all the Jew haters? I mean,
I'd forgotten about that.
yeah, I mean, Len is the one who,
Yeah, who
it-
is the sense of reason.
right,
Yeah.
the two Hebrew words are emet, aleph, mem, tav, and then when you take away the aleph, it's met, which means death. So he was there was, what did you think about the tangent with him when he went to Stockholm? Because
Yeah,
someone
Airbnb.
yeah, and that someone he found the IP address. I mean,
Yeah.
he went off on a lot of tangents,
Yeah,
and the woman there said, "Why didn't you just call
just
me?"
email me.
Yeah, I would have given you the money back. So I just thought that I don't know. What do you think that
Yeah.
tangent meant?
Uh,
That he would
Yeah.
he would carry, he saw his plans to the end, to fruition. Merle, go ahead. Oh, wait. Go ahead. I unmuted you.
I thought it was just proof of how far he would go to do something that he wanted to do. I had a lot of trouble connecting it at first. It seemed like such a ridiculous tangent, but that was his personality. And as an art teacher, my daughter is an artist, and she got her degree from the School of the Art Institute. And one of her teachers was a guy who had been in the Vietnam War. This guy wore fatigues to class, and he didn't look like an artist. All the kids had orange hair or blue hair. This guy looked like a soldier. So it's really hard to pigeonhole what an art teacher is supposed to be like. But I thought Len was just one of these guys who talked the way he wanted to talk and just do whatever he wanted to do with determination. So I liked him. I did. I liked Len.
I did. I liked him too. And at the end, he's the one who kind of pulled the plug. What do you think that most golems have been made by, rabbis and, very learned people, why why was Len able to make the golem? Andy.
Good question.
Because the golem was needed.
Okay. Yeah,
So the common man
yeah,
could do it because
right.
There were problems.
there were
Yeah.
problems.
I think of that scene in Aladdin where he's there, they have to find a diamond in the rough. So maybe, Len was a diamond in the rough, but he had a pure soul. And the other thing that I kept thinking, I'm sorry, Jesse, go ahead.
A question, do we ever know in the Ginny and the Golem who made him?
Yes.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
in
I
the
don't remember
Ginny,
that
the
part.
Ginny and the Golem, the mother made it to take care of her daughter. And then she dies the mom dies on the passage over.
Okay.
So,
So the point or the statement that it's got to be a rabbi or a
Oh, yeah.
religious person.
right. I can't
Is-
remember if she was religious or her
Wait,
father was
the
religious.
golem was a woman though
Yeah,
in that book.
yes,
So, yeah.
it was.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
But it also brings up again the plausible.
No, wait, I'm sorry, we're backtracking on this book, but wasn't there somebody who was going to use the golem as his wife? But that person died on the boat. Wasn't that the deal? Something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it was to protect the child, and then when whoever it was died, the golem was masterless, and we can see
Right.
that that's a problem. And I thought that, the first thing that the golem said is, where is my dick? And
Yeah.
that keeps cropping up cropping up
I know.
the whole time. And and then they have to go get married because Len can't understand one word that he's saying. Yeah, anything else before I? Oh, Paul, yeah, Paula, go ahead.
Andy.
Andy,
I
I
know.
was just thinking where you
I
just.
know.
There's Paula.
Paula sends her regrets. She's actually in
I'm
Florida.
gonna send her the recording and tell her that I called you by her name.
I was going to just respond because we're very used to it.
Yeah.
I have a very naive and stupid question. And the golem and the genie, do they have sex? Can golems have sex?
I don't think so.
Remember. Couldn't remember.
No, I'm pretty, and the woman golem, in the golem and the genie befriends this genie that's,
Genie.
that popped out of a bottle and it's a man, but
And he has sex.
Yeah.
He's promiscuous, right?
Yeah,
He's very busy.
I don't think the golem, I don't think
Okay.
so.
Thank
I
you.
mean, the other thing that I kept thinking, we're reading this now and I can't remember when Adam came by us. I think it might have been before October 7th, but
Mhm.
all the times when you do need a golem, whether it's in Israel now or during the Holocaust. And the other thing is they keep referring to Baba Yar as Babin Yar, and maybe that's the correct Russian term, which was a terrible pogrom that, Jews were shot and in these giant open graves, and that this, the one, the Ardmore survived is, I don't know if that's based on a real story, but I've heard other accounts like that. So, yeah, it's when do we need a golem? When do we when would it help the Jews? Merle.
They kept saying the golem comes when the Jews are having a crisis.
Yeah.
And really, you would have to define crisis. And I think what was going on in Kentucky in the story would qualify.
Mhm.
So the fact that they all went there, I think that was just an example of what would happen if we could get a golem to come.
Mhm.
And yeah.
Would we get one to go after Trump? That would be my choice.
But you'd have to, you know, is he an anti-Semite? His son-in-law is Jewish. You know, you know, he
He's
and
everything. He's anti-everything, so.
yeah, I mean, he's onto himself. But the thread of anti-Semitism is what keeps through the ages, happens all the time. And you know that Rabbi Moffick has written about it. We've talked about it, but I think that, and I keep reading more and more articles about the incidence of anti-Semitism at colleges has doubled and tripled and quadrupled, and that anti-Semitic incidents. I said this morning, this is my third class today. Susan Wellick should get a star. We've spent a lot of time together today. If you had told me, I don't know, before COVID, that we would have a security guard whenever we have a program in the building, I would have said, oh, come on. A security guard with a gun.
Right. That's the big thing. The gun now, they never had it before.
And we started having security after Tree of Life. And then after October 7th, we just upped it until it's that, and it does make me feel comfortable. And he lets people in, and I don't have to jump up if I'm teaching a class and perhaps somebody's late. You know, not that we didn't have, listen, the synagogues have been locked down for many years. You can't get into a synagogue. That was, you know, when a JCC was attacked, I don't know, 10, 15,
Right.
maybe even 20 years ago.
You know,
So
I drove past, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going up Clavey Road, which I haven't done because it was under construction, and I noticed in front of JCYS, they put up barriers in front of the doors so that people can't drive into the building. And it kind of struck me. I just noticed that today because I hadn't ever seen it before, but I'm sure that's part of the security that they've put in.
Interesting. I'm going to have to go look because
Yeah.
with,
They have those like U-shaped, like
yes,
bent, you know, that so
yeah,
that you can't drive in.
right. The Lori Dan shooting,
Mm-hmm.
she went to JCYS. She was turned away, and then she went to a public school. So they've always been on the cutting edge of security, as far as I'm concerned.
Mhm.
And dodged a giant bullet. And
Yeah.
that was, I don't know how, a long,
That was in the
35 years
80s.
ago.
It was
I
in
was
the
pregnant.
80s.
I was pregnant
35?
with Lucy. It was
Yeah.
88.
That's a
I was
long
working at
time
Evanston
ago.
Hospital. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Anyway, let me read a little bit for you. Eventually the golem learns English by binging Curb Your Enthusiasm. After ingesting a massive amount of LSD, there was a lot of drug references, and reveals that he is a creature with an ancestral memory. He recalls every previous iteration of himself, making the golem a repository of Jewish history and trauma. He demands to know what crisis has prompted his recreation and whom he must destroy. When Miri shows him a video of white nationalists marching and chanting, "Jews will not replace us," the answer becomes clear. And I think the whole chapter at the beginning of the book with Walid and that trauma can be passed down. And I think that's a real science that there, you know, that it can be
Right, you're
passed.
hearing that things go through one generation to the other, passed
Yes.
down. So that part intrigued me as well, because I really do believe that, I mean, you can see in families anxieties and
Right.
abuse, alcohol abuse, whatever is
Yes,
definitely
yeah.
passed on. So this kind of took it to an nth degree, but
Yes,
but
yes.
yeah, I was
And
interested in that.
I remember thinking about that in I was discussing another book, but I couldn't remember epigenetics. Thank you,
Mhm.
Sandy. I couldn't remember where I read it until I reread the Golem. And I was like, "Oh, this is where it was," because I think
Mhm.
it's absolutely, fascinating.
Mhm.
Can we, as
Are
Jews,
we really part of our ancestors, which is what we always say. Like I would always say, you were there, everybody was there on Sinai, because we're all passed down, and that's kind of an intriguing part of it all.
right? Um, Sandy, do you know more about epigenetics?
I have the definition because I was interested. I thought it was a fascinating concept that the trauma
Mhm.
can enter your genetics code and could be
Mhm.
passed down. And yet I have to tell you, I find myself doing things and I think, oh, this is what my mother would do, or this is what my father would do, or do, it's a trait of my grandparent. So from, they talk about trauma, but I think this other idea is interesting, and I wonder when it would happen. Because what happens in my lifetime, you know, my or do you have? Does it have to be passed down when you have children? So anything that happens after the kid is born, is it part of the code?
Yeah, is it in bred heredity or environment is,
Right.
always the question. Yeah.
Nature and nurture.
Yes.
But you think about besides the trauma of the Holocaust, the trauma of the Depression. And I know that my in-laws were very traumatized. And when you went to their house, they didn't have one can of tuna fish. They had 10 cans of tuna fish. And you didn't have one thing of tinfoil. You had 10 things of tinfoil. And occasionally when we run out of something here, Arthur goes, why don't you, why don't you stop? Why do we run out of blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, I mean, when we had to empty that house, it was not pleasant. But and the bag saving,
Yes, the bag saving. And
And the string from Marshall Fields. The string
and
the
the other
handles.
thing is you don't throw away food ever. You
wait,
never throw away food.
oh yes, you don't throw away food. You're absolutely right. When my mother-in-law would come visit us, if somebody left one bite like this big, she'd put it in a bowl with saran wrap. And then the day they left, I just I threw everything out. But do you think you can pass that down? Andy,
Well, I don't know if it's genetic, but
Or
my
maybe learned. Learned.
father, right, is learned. Like if we broke something like a bowl or a china figurine, you didn't throw it out. You glued it back together, and we got really good at that. And now when things or a friend breaks something or they say I dropped this, I said, well, I can probably glue it back together. And it takes a lot of fortitude for me to look at something and say, I can't fix that. That it's gone. Not with the food, not with the
Yeah.
food, but it's like
Well,
with a broken thing, a torn clothing.
Yeah.
If it were a midi dress, it became knee length if you tore
Mhm.
it. if, you just didn't trash it.
Right. That actually reminds me, there's a Japanese art,
Oh, right.
kintsugi, and you put it together and
Yes.
you make it gold and you make it
Mhm.
more beautiful.
That's
Mhm.
Wonderful.
But that
Yeah.
that
should
wasn't
take
what you
that
were
up.
doing.
I should take
No.
that up.
The cracks are part of the design.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what happens.
I mean, I think it's absolutely fascinating. And I had a girlfriend who broke something of her mother's and she threw it right away. And 10 people said 5 minutes later, do kintsugi and together with gold. And so next time she breaks something. I also want to talk about
That reminds me, my mother-in-law, we have some plates from my mother-in-law that my daughter was going to use and she didn't. And so we started using them. They were the ones, with the coffee. It was a coffee and set, but they were polka dots. So Abby thought they were kind of like Kate Spade-ish looking.
Yeah.
And so I kept it. And then one day I'm looking at around the rim and I see there's a piece, and my mother-in-law was an artist. So she tried to match the color of it too. And she glued a piece on there. And I said, I'm sure that this is something your mother did. It's just wild to see that. But I want to keep it because it's like, that's the kind of thing that she would do.
Yeah.
And now the thing about recycling food now, I'm so excited. I put so much stuff in the recycle food bins now that I don't worry about throwing away food anymore.
mean the
Which is
compost?
kind of, yeah, the compost. I have more stuff in there than I can believe.
Yeah, I really like it too, and I'm surprised more people don't do it.
Mhm.
So I want to read this.
Oh, my bad.
Golem of Brooklyn is an epic romp through Jewish history and the American present that wrestles with the deepest questions of our humanity. The conflicts between faith, skepticism, tribalism, and interdependence, and vengeance and healing. I think that's really a beautiful paragraph. It's on some book review site, and the vengeance and the healing, I kept thinking about it because were you rooting for the golem to kill those people?
No,
No.
maybe a little bit.
Maybe.
It makes you, and the other tangent was the statue of Pettibone. And the interesting thing, it was a fictional character because I tried to Google it and, is this a real person? It wasn't. But it is what's happening with statues all over the country. And these statues were not erected right after the Civil War. They were erected in the 50s during Jim Crow.
Right.
And, that they, were trying to take back whatever power they thought they had. So, I thought that was, and that it was a Jewish civics teacher who they were burning in effigy. I mean, all of that I thought was realistic.
Mhm.
Merle.
I thought the scene where Len was up in the tree and couldn't get down was very interesting about would she use the tefillin or not?
Right.
And honestly, I think they did the right thing. They used the tefillin. Unfortunately, he broke his elbow, but it was great. It was entertaining. That kind of moral choice you have to make sometimes. It's so hard.
Right. And that because he was an art teacher, he thought to braid it.
Right.
To make it stronger.
Make it stronger. Yeah.
But it didn't
Brenda?
keep from falling.
Yeah. Brenda, did you want to say something?
Before, when you were talking about the golem,
Yeah.
about whether we really wanted him to kill, I would say, I felt, and maybe maybe more to scare them, not to, to get them to change their ways without killing them.
Yeah. Do you think
Maybe
that's
just,
do you
just
think
a
that's
little maiming.
possible?
Do
Wait.
I think
Do you think it's possible to scare people to change their ways if they are such virulent anti-Semites?
I'm not sure. You
I
have
don't-
to do something pretty drastic.
I'm sorry, Elaine, what were you saying?
I said, maybe just maim them a little bit. But I don't think you can scare people into changing their ways.
I don't either. I don't either. And a lot of the scenes with the sheriff, with the police, like, and they're confronting the golem and we thought he was a Sasquatch or Bigfoot. You know how it's going to end, and it's kind of, it's a little gleeful that he's able to turn the situation around. Marilyn, were you saying something?
No, I was just listening to everybody, everyone's opinions, and I really don't think that, you can take an anti-Semite and educate him to not being an anti-Semite. This is so ingrained in them from an extremely early age, I believe, okay? And it's terrible because especially what's going on today, everywhere we go, you see anti-Semitism, and it's very troubling, and it's definitely frightening too. You just don't know where you can go to avoid it. It's everywhere. It's scary.
Elaine.
It's also really hard to draw the line between, there are people who are extremely pro-Palestinian, and I'm not anti-Palestinian. There's a lot of innocent people there, but it often feels like anti-Semitism to me when they're very, very strongly pro-Palestinian.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember which class and I apologize, especially to Susan if you've heard this before, but the I feel bad for our kids on college campuses.
Yeah.
And I think it's really up to us to educate them a little bit more on how to on what they might be confronting in college, but this intersectionality of if you're LGBTQ, Black Lives Matter, then you're for the Palestinians because they're, part of that coalition, which leaves our kids who, might be LGBTQ. We have a lot more Jews of color that they're left like on the other side of the argument. And, I just think it's very, very difficult. And, the Black Lives Matter movement I think that has just, been very anti-Semitic. And, we think of the glory days of Martin Luther King and Abraham Joshua Heschel and, marching together and praying with our feet. And, that's, I don't know if that coalition still exists. It's a hard thing. I'm sorry, Andy, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. I was just gonna say, I might be very Pollyannish, but on a one-on-one basis, if we could speak to each anti-Semite, why do you hate the Jews? Like that one anti-Semite white supremacist who decided he was going to try and convince white supremacists not to be so. Some might not even know why they're anti-Semitic. It's just like, it's a bully thing along with their friends. They might not even know, but things are so fractured right now that the dialogue is very, very difficult.
I agree with you. And I think in any situation, you have to be able to tell your story, tell your truth. That, somebody you could disagree with me about anti-Semitism, but you can't say what I experienced growing up in Crystal Lake didn't happen, because that was my experience growing up in Crystal Lake. And having friends, especially when you're little, because I didn't understand. And I remember our next door neighbor said to us, and I'm sure they were anti-Semitic, said, were you baptized? And I must have said no. And they said, you're going to hell. And
The
they,
hell,
Yeah.
yeah.
they were, and I ran home and I said to my mom, why didn't you baptize us? What's the matter with you? She's like, oi, Vanessa. I didn't know what it was. I was 9 or 10. So,
Yeah.
obviously.
I had almost the exact same experience where a girlfriend in my neighborhood said, I'm really sad for you because you haven't accepted Jesus Christ as your savior, and so you're going to go to hell.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was really weird. And I was maybe 9 or 10.
I had an experience very similar to that. When I was living in Aurora many years ago, and we were certainly a Jewish minority, I had a neighbor. Her son and my son, they were little kids. They were 5 years old. They were good friends, and they used to play together all the time. And she really started befriending me a lot. And I found out why later. She really was working to get me to convert to Christianity because she was so sure that I was going to burn in hell and she was going to be the person to save me. And I mean, she even spoke in tongues. And she took me to a meeting, and where they were all speaking in tongues. I mean, I thought these
Whoa,
How did you not
crazy.
stop laughing?
went because I was curious. And, it was like, and then after that, and then when she told me, I just said to her, Lori, I'm sorry. This is the end of this friendship. I just I can't deal with this, and you forget about me and I'm going to forget about you. There's a neighbor who lived across the
Yeah.
street, but I couldn't deal with it. It was just awful.
Marilyn.
Now, I experienced anti-Semitism once in my life that I remember very vividly. I went to work at AC Nielsen when they were on Howard Street in Chicago. And this was in 1966, okay? And I had come from a job where I was the only Jewish person in a huge, huge company. And no one ever mentioned anything about my being Jewish and them being anti-Semitic. So I went to work for 2 gentlemen, and the women, the young girls who worked in the office there, one of them was from Danville, Illinois. And she was a true redneck. And when they somehow or other realized I was Jewish, they completely just ignored me, wouldn't let me sit and have lunch with them. They made me so uncomfortable that after 2 months, I said to the 2 men I was working for, I have to quit. And they said, why? I said, because I'm being treated in such a terrible way by the young women who work here that they completely make me feel so unwelcome, and I'm just not used to that. And I said, I can't stay here. I can't work under these conditions. And that's really the only time that I can remember feeling that someone just didn't like me because I was Jewish. It was a really long time ago, so thank goodness I've never experienced it again, but I won't ever forget it.
I think though that Merle, go ahead.
Well, there's one entire chapter that's supposed to be a poem excerpted from the poet Brodsky, which I
Yes.
don't think it actually is. But
I tried to Google it. He doesn't
no, I
exist.
don't think so. But at the end, it said something. One of the reasons people hate Jews is because that Jews are responsible for all the wars in the history of the world. If you are noted white historian Mel Gibson. So
yeah.
You hear these things from people who are kind of, well-known, famous people saying these ridiculous things. And somebody's going to believe that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why when either Jewish stars come out as supporting Israel or against anti-Semitism, or rich Jewish businessmen, Robert Kraft. I mean, he has really put his money where his mouth is. He's taken
Yep.
out a lot of ads about anti-Semitism. His wife died of breast cancer. He's been very philanthropic to that. And they do have a lot of influence, and we can't underestimate that. And I think try to lift it up. It's, I have worked with kids low these many years, and I talk about sometimes Jewish heroes, and they say my dad, my mom. Yeah, okay. And then when you ask who is a hero, they go straight to sports figures, celebrities, and there are a few Jewish sports figures. That's like that joke on the movie Airplane. I want something short. Here's the brochure on Jewish sports heroes. It's 2 pages long. But I think that and look, I think for kids, no matter what their denomination is, to look at these sports heroes who make millions of dollars and don't always make good choices in their personal life, it's, we have to lift up being an upstander and showing our kids, what this means, and just, and talking about it, because otherwise, the pervasiveness of screens and television and social media is hard to go up against. Um, blah, 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 blah. When the Golem insists he should only be activated in a moment of crisis, his new creator is at first hard pressed to find one as a non-visible Jew in Brooklyn. This is Len. There's a lot of hand wringing about intermarriage, Len offers. Israel, Palestine is a shit show, but most people try not to bring it up. I know more and more Jewish couples who definitely do not want to circumcise if they have boys. It's hard to see Mansbach, as easily distracted as he is from his own concept, as less ambivalent than his protagonist. Even if he frames his doubts as thoughtful and admits that white supremacist cops and Camp Auschwitz merchandise are real. Mansbach isn't sure that we're at an inflection point. The first in the novel's mythos since the Holocaust, to pull our own earthen ace out of retirement. So I think that's an interesting point. When are we at a crisis point? When are we at, we need this mythic hero to come and to save us? I'm just not sure.
Now, it's now. It's definitely now.
Listen, I think, over the centuries, there have been false messiahs, Shabtai Tzvi, Jacob Frank, and, I'm sure during the Holocaust, people were saying, now's the time for the Messiah to come. Now's the time where we need God's help.
We at least need a golem.
We need
Yeah.
Golem.
We at least need a
Okay.
golem.
We need a lot of Golem, not just one. We need a lot of them.
Right. So there was, I have to pull it up here. Did anyone listen to the book?
I
Yes.
did.
Yeah,
Loved
So-
it.
Yeah,
I did. I
Yeah.
did
did you like the narration?
very much.
Yeah, I did as well. And they
I
had-
thought it brought out a lot of emphasis on language and in where it was going that I might not have picked up reading.
right. The Golem has a heavy European accent. Len has a heavy Brooklyn accent, Miri's, and the Yiddish. Whoever the actor is who read it, I thought was fantastic.
Yep.
But at the very end, they have, he has a song, and it's the Golem of Brick, the original soundtrack. And there's merchandise. I mean, this guy has it, and I'm only going to play you a little bit of it.
Yeah. The golem wakes, closes fist, folds a face. Opposing army soldiers shake, all retreat, no escape. Open space in front lines, unwinds, chokes and breaks. Any troop of fools was stupid enough to roam his way. Bastard child of Superman and Frankenstein's creature. Sanctified slang out of gray and white speaker. Created by the ether, super ugly and horrific. Covered in resilience and the dust of deliverance. The golem kept you safe, Babylonia to Poland. The golem's been the same since the moment it was molded. The golem smelled hatred, the golem left it broken. World stays world, the golem stays the golem. The golem kept you safe, Babylonia to Poland. The golem's been the same since the moment it was molded. The golem smelled hatred, the golem left it broken. World stays world, the golem stays the golem. Learn the language soaked in acid, hurling paving stones at fascists.
I thought it was, when I heard it at the end of the book, here's the link I'll put in the chat. And reading his biography that, you know, he had a hip hop whatever. Obviously that's in Adam Mansbach's background, that he likes hip hop, and that was definitely the mode of that. I'm not sure, you know, I asked him if this was going to come to the screen. I can't remember what he said. I have to go back and listen again. But I know it was fanciful, but there's other fanciful things, you know, on television, and I think it would be interesting to see. They'd have to get the real Larry David though to play that part. Yeah.
I felt like it was fanciful historical fiction.
Yes. Here. Yes, absolutely. Merle.
I thought it ended on a very philosophical note, though, right at the end, where Len and Mary have their little conversation. And
yes,
and he says, and if we kill everybody who hates us, he says, we'll be safe. And she says, yes, for once. But then he says, but we'll no longer be Jews, we'll be something else. And this is precisely the conflict, the moral dilemma that people see Netanyahu going through right now.
Yes. Well said.
I think you're very generous to Netanyahu. I don't, you know.
It's that thing about if you kill all the enemies, is this an act of tikkun olam when you're also killing a bunch of other people at the same time? And I thought this story ended in a very serious philosophical note compared to the
I actually thought it was a very poignant note.
Yeah.
That
A lot of poignancy throughout it, I thought.
yes. And
Funny and poignant.
yeah. I mean, I just think that Adam Mansbach is, you know, just he's just so he's so funny. I like his
Humor.
I like his humor. All right. We just have a couple minutes, and I want to talk about what's happening. So I'm going to Israel. So if it's okay, gonna have to be okay. Well, it was supposed to meet on the 21st. We'll meet on the 28th. And the book is Candle, Feather, Wooden Spoon, New Jewish Stories. And it's by Rabbi Zoe Klein. And she is actually coming to speak on a Sunday morning, March 18th, which it's a virtual adult enrichment, which I'll be doing from Israel.
You mean the 17th?
No, it's a Sunday, 18th.
Yeah, that's the 17th.
Really?
I'm gonna be in Florida.
Yeah,
Yeah.
March
Be out of
17th.
town.
Yeah.
Oh, well. have to go back.
When is the date for the next book club? Did you say
Right.
March 28th?
It's going to be Thursday, March 28th. I'll send this all out tomorrow.
Okay.
And, oh, it is the 17th. Oh, right. Hopefully that's what it says on all the things. I have to be somewhere on March 18th. And I'm flying in so that I'll still be awake to do Zoe Klein. And she's really lovely, and I think you're going to like her. And I don't have it right now, but she's going to focus on a couple of stories, and I'll send you the stories tomorrow of what she's going to focus on.
Do you have idea as to where it can be had? I looked it up, I think on Kindle and Audible. I don't think I could get it.
It was I just got it on Kindle, $9.
Is
Kindle.
it a long book? Is it a long book?
It's short stories, and I'm going to give you the stories to read. No.
Oh, okay.
I thought the first 2 sections of it
Yeah.
were much more digestible and readable. When I got to that 3rd section, it got lost.
Okay. Well, I'll have to see which section. But yeah, it's right here on my Kindle.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think if there's any other changes. I will be gone from March 15th through the 26th. But
And is Rabbi gone now?
Rabbi Sarada is in Antarctica.
Right. He's there for
And-
2 weeks.
Wow.
Then he comes
Mhm.
home and goes to Israel for a week. Then he comes home and he goes to Poland for a week.
Wow.
Yeah, he's got a busy
Lot of
travel.
You're going to Israel and I'm
I'm-
going to Florida. The same time you're going to be gone, I'm going to be in
All right.
Florida.
Hopefully we both have good weather. That's
Yeah, I
all.
hope so. Yeah.
So.
But it'll be all Jewish community. So that's something.
Right. If you need anything, you know where to get me. Thank you everybody for coming out tonight. It's great to see everyone. Oh, so tomorrow night I'm producing Rabbi Moffick's class about the teachings of Rabbi David Ellenson, who recently died. He was the president at HUC and just really a special teacher. So tomorrow's the last session. And of course, all of the classes are up on YouTube if you.
And there's no more Sunday information. It's now Thursday.
Yes, you are correct. I thought you were going to say there's no more Sunday, but this Sunday we have Sue Zilberstein and it's meditation. So if you like that, come on down. All right. Thanks, everyone. Good to
Thank
see
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Vanessa.
Safe travels.
Okay.
Thank you.